Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Podcast. My guest today on Calgary's podcast is Patricia Phillips, who is CEO and Chair of the PBA Group of Companies. Thanks for joining us today, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Mario. It's my pleasure.
Well, let me just start by asking you, tell me what the company does, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So PBA, first of all, is in its second generation. My father founded the company actually 60 years ago this year. So we're celebrating our 60th anniversary in our second generation. We are a land developer, a property manager, asset manager, and also we are in hospitality development and management. So we are, since I took over the leadership of the company after my father's passing, we have quadrupled in size, and we're opening our third hotel this summer, the Element, and we will have a total of through our partnerships about 320 people that will be working for us.
Okay, wonderful. Before I forget, what do the initials stand for?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So when my father first started the company, it was called Phillips Brothers and Associates. And that was because two of his brothers, my Uncle Bob and my Uncle Marion, both came up to Canada or to Calgary from Blacksville, West Virginia, with my father. He was the elder one of the three of them. There were 8 boys in their family, and the 3 of them were founders of PBA. PBA are Phillips Brothers and Associates. So when my sister Michelle, my late sister Michelle, who unfortunately passed away in June of last year, so she and I, after my father passed away in August of 2003, she and I bought out my other sister and brother. And we decided, because it was a women owned, that we would take it into the second generation and rebrand the company as PBA, rather than, because there were no boys or brothers involved in the business at this time. And
no,
so,
I'm curious. What made your father and his brothers come to Calgary from Virginia?
a great question. So it was West Virginia. The Blacksville was an interesting, a really neat small town that straddled the Mason-Dixon line. And my father was the second generation in the energy business. And so he moved up to Canada with both of his brothers to explore the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin. So he was well known to be a very successful wildcatter of his time. And the first 2 companies that he founded were on the energy side. And so what he did when he sold his second company, he took some of the proceeds from that organization and redeployed it into land to start a real estate company. So the theory was, you're taking money from a more of a depleting asset and taking that cash flow and pumping it into what he believed was an appreciating asset at the time. And so he started to do his own developments on the lands that he purchased.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What I'm just curious, did you ever, yourself personally, did you ever go back to his old hometown?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I went a number of times, and my father's father died when they were quite young. So my grandma actually raised her 8 boys on her own, and she had a letter from the president at the time and congratulating her for her courage for having 6 of her sons in World War II in active service together, and how incredibly blessed she was for having them return home all alive. So I would go, the last time I went to Blacksville, because my father actually then lived in Morgantown for a while before he moved north into Calgary. And the last time I was in Blacksville was when my grandma passed away, and they all described her as being sort of an angel, that they could see a vision of her walking through the street. She had quite an incredible reputation.
What do you think, Patricia, you learned from those roots, from your father and from your grandmother?
Um, that's a great question. I think for me, what I learned from my grandma is being resilient. I mean, she was an incredibly resilient woman and very devoted to her family and making it the best possible for her. She didn't have a lot of money, but she was very supportive of her sons. And then from my dad and that experience, I think I learned, he always taught me every day you get up, you need to be happy. And he said, I really feel sorry for people that go through their life not you know, not understanding what makes them happy. So really don't be motivated by money, be motivated by happiness. And also from both of them, I learned resilience and grit factor. Like it was never easy. I remember telling the story at my dad's funeral when he graduated from high school in Blacksville. He had been up really early one morning, laying tracks on the train track. Like I think at 3 a.m, he was so tired. When he got to his graduation, he could barely walk across the stage to get his uh, graduation certificate. So, I knew that I learned, that I had to work hard. That nothing comes. You can't expect anything to just drop in your lap. You have to earn it. You have to earn respect. And it takes commitment and drive.
Join our thriving community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for success and innovation. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
Let's talk a little bit more about the business and what are some of the, I guess, signature properties and developments that is under your portfolio?
Sure. I'd say most recently. So an interesting thing that we've done, and I'm thinking of just sort of a bit of my father in our current location where our headquarters are. My father had originally planned for it to be a sort of a European lodge, and that was later on in his career, and he could never quite successfully launch that. And so after he died, I looked at a lot of the properties that we had that were undeveloped and did my own little research and figured out that we downtown, one of the barriers to entry was land for a hotel. We needed more hotels in downtown. And so what I thought about, I looked more into, what was the best use of that property from a return standpoint, market standpoint. And we got to a hospitality and then looked at what the best flags were. So that our first hotel was a dual flag Marriott hotel. We were the first ones to bring the autograph collection into Alberta. We were the first in Alberta to do a dual flag Marriott hotel. We combined that with a courtyard hotel. We were the first to introduce the Generation 7.0 hotel. And so it's a flagship hotel for us, given all of the awards that we've won, which, that's one thing my dad always taught me. You can be really smart. You can work really hard, but you've got to be lucky. And so, with a lot of luck, our hotel has won incredible amounts. We won the opening of the year with both the autograph and the courtyard with Marriott. We won developer of the year with Marriott in both properties. Fodor's Awards, we were as recognized as one of the best hotels in the world for the Dorian. We recently just won, I'm sure you're aware of the Michelin Key. We won that, and there are only three other hotels, two of them being the Banff Springs and also the Chateau Lake Louise. So we were the only cosmopolitan hotel in Alberta. So I think it's a flagship sort of new sector for us in our evolution from G1 to G2. And we've really set the stage for Calgary and put it on the world map. And we've also really pioneered what we call our average daily rates and occupancies. We've really increased the ceiling for that and to allow other hotel operators and owners to achieve a higher profitability, and which means more tax revenue for the city too. So when you look at it from a sustainability perspective, That's what really keeps us going. And I think we're really looking forward to opening our third hotel, which is the Element Hotel, which is the only hotel that that's participating in the revitalization program with the city of Calgary. And that's going to bring on another 226 rooms. Element was a brand that was generated from the Westin Hotel, and Marriott bought the Westin. So it will add to a lot longer term stay. We're already booking for that. It's an incredible part of downtown on the West End, where the city is spending a lot of money revitalizing that and activating the landscape around there and the river.
Now, Patricia, having grown up in Calgary
I was born here, but I actually never grew up here.
Oh, really? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Calgary, and I was raised in England and Europe. And then I graduated from high school in the US, went to undergrad and graduate school, and then worked on Wall Street for a while before I moved back.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not.
No. While we're at the topic, I was going to ask you that because I saw in your bio that you were one of the first female analysts on Wall Street. How was that experience going through that?
Well, it was. You know what? It was. I'm looking at you. It was interesting. I got a couple of offers. One with Goldman Sachs, the other with First Boston, and I loved the opportunity. It was really challenging being on Wall Street and not coming from an investment or a finance background. I had a degree in economics and French literature. So I took on the challenge. I'm someone that never accepts the word no. No me equals challenge. Challenge equals opportunity. And I kind of moved forward from there and really established myself as I established my own areas of expertise in both the energy and the sovereign sector. And so I had a lot of people within fixed income and capital markets that really relied upon me. So I really enjoyed it. It was an exceptionally good training ground for me. It really taught me in that environment really to believe in myself and to believe in what I knew, make sure that I was very well educated on any topic that I went to do, but to know that I had the opportunity not to be combative with people, but to mentor them. And I think that was my ability to really come in and collaborate with people. But I was really the only woman. I think the couple other women that were on my team or within the firm were not overly collaborative with each other. So I found that my strongest alliances were with men, which I think really served me well later in my career as I moved up as being the only woman in probably anything I do.
How long were you on Wall Street?
I was on Wall Street for 5 years before I went back and got my MBA at the University of Texas.
Okay. And for Calgary, like when did you come back, so to speak?
So I came back to Calgary in 1992. And Mario, the reason I came back is my father actually became quite ill. He got cancer and his life expectancy was not very good. And so he asked me to come back after I graduated. I had planned on actually opening up or leading the office in Toronto for First Boston. But he said, listen, I want you to come back. I think this is our opportunity to try and do some stuff together. I did a bunch of stuff on the energy side, but I first did you might be aware of the Strathcona Square Shopping Center. That was my first real estate development, and I won the International Council of Shopping Centers Award for that.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know anything about real estate at the time, but I made that happen, and it was a good asset. But I really wanted to get back onto the energy side. And didn't spend too much time with my dad on that, got a little frustrated. So I thought, well, I'm already in Calgary now, and it's difficult for me to be moving back and forth across the border. So that launched me into another opportunity, which I founded as CEO, 3 energy companies that I sold each time and made a significant amount of money for all of our stakeholders. And so on the third one is my father had died sort of in the middle of me founding and CEO of my third energy company. So after I sold that is when I moved into the leadership role at PBA.
Now, when you look at Calgary, you've been on, as I said, in real estate and in energy, and we all know that how the energy sector has gone in this province over the last 50 years, say, the ups and downs and ups and downs. What do you think it took for companies, and your father probably was right in the throes of all that. What was it that made those companies survive and carry on and continue?
Well, I'm just thinking over, oh gosh, there's so many ways I could answer that question. I think for him, because he was in it for the long haul on the energy side, people, you need to have really good people, even if you're in a very capital intensive business. You need to have really good teamwork, but you also need to be capitalized appropriately and effectively. And I think a lot of sort of the smaller energy companies that started off were not what I would call strategically capitalized, where they'd have sort of institutional shareholders in the beginning of their capital stack. And when they'd go to need more money, it was not necessarily accretive, and they didn't have the capital behind them. They were typically over leveraged in a lot of circumstances. And then I think as the energy sector, as we became, as it aged through the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin, I think size, operating efficiencies and stuff become more important. And if you look today, the junior energy companies just aren't, they're just not effective. I think the other thing is as the cycle became more mature, or as the energy business became more mature, I think one of the keys to success is access to private capital. I think that when you're running, a smaller energy company that is more focused on public equity, you're focused more on the short term, and that's a difficult cycle to maintain value.
Mm-hmm. I guess you have to, especially in this city, in this province, having a long-term view of things is important, right? Because you do know that when things the cycles will be there, right, and have been over the years. Yeah.
You're right. It is, and it's interesting because it has been very cyclical. I think what's interesting now is just how our ecosystem has really been redefined. I think that I've seen in the last 10 years, and the more we see of, I think I see a much stronger leadership coming out of all the different sectors, including the energy sector, than we had 20 years ago. But I also see a renewed sense of optimism in the depth of our diversity in our ecosystem. And I see, Calgary's also, we've cleared the 1 million mark on population. And I think that makes it more of a sustainable city. And so I think you look at, how do we as developers now pivot and recreate those communities that we need to create sustainability for all the different types of demographics. And I think that's the interesting cycle that we're going through right now from a development perspective.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
As a business owner in Calgary and in Alberta, what would you say the advantages are of operating a business here?
Tax is one for sure. We have the lowest tax environment, I think, in North America. I also think that, you talk to a lot of younger entrepreneurs, or at least I do, a lot of them that I mentor, and ask them, why are you here? Why are you not in the rest of Canada? And I think we have such a strong entrepreneurial environment in this city where people of various different backgrounds and expertise are very supportive and really encourage and create that opportunity for success. For entrepreneurship, and there's such a strong can-do attitude. I think it just makes it really unique. And I think Canada now especially now, is quite uniquely positioned as a country relative to the rest of the world with what's going on down in the US and also in Europe. We see a lot of capital coming in from other European countries. Canada has a strong banking system. We have a strong education system. So I think there's a lot to celebrate about that. I mean, we all have everyone has its challenges for sure, but I think we've got a lot of, like, again, focused on the long-term gain. I think Alberta has a lot to offer.
And when you see the economic environment today here in Calgary, what are your thoughts about where we sit, on the economic side of things in this city right now?
I'll tell you, in the city, it is it's a challenge with the inflationary environment making your developments work.
Yeah.
I think there's a real need for a lot of developments and revitalization of, say, for instance, in our downtown. But with the costs that we face as developers, it's not easy to make that risk reward work to attract the capital that you need. But I also think, it's a challenging municipal environment to operate into. Calgary's got one of the more challenging environments that just lengthens the investment cycle, that makes it less competitive. But I think, again, every place has its challenges. So I think that's, again, what you brought up. You got to stay focused on the long term, the long vision.
All right. Tell me a little bit about the Phillips Foundation and what that is.
The Phillips Foundation, sure. We founded that 10 years ago, and we actively give to, say, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Kids for Cancer. I'm the vice chair of the Glenbow. We put money in and support a number of the charities within Calgary. So focused on sports, health, and the arts and culture.
Okay, now you mentioned sports, and I think I read correctly in your bio that you're involved in alpine racing?
I was, yes, I was on the U.S. development ski team for a while until I had an injury, and that was again a great learning opportunity for me. It also provided, I was around a lot of men, so I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so comfortable why I was so comfortable when I was on Wall Street. But it really teaches you how to manage your time well. It taught me how to be resilient, but it also teaches you how to manage change. When you're going down a course and you miss a gate or you have to go up, it just teaches you to be agile. And I think that's one of the important things of a leader as well.
So what was it? Downhill or
No. My event was in slalom. That was my. Yeah, I was not a good downhiller.
I could never understand those guys. Remember the good old days?
Crazy Canucks, yes. Ken Reed's a good friend of mine, and his children skied with my kids. Raced with my children. No, he's an amazing guy.
You know what? I was actually reminiscing just the other day about the Crazy Canucks and Jungle Jim Hunter.
Right.
The initial ones, and and just how much they brought a profile to Canada over those.
Oh yeah, they took it to the world stage. They just were amazing athletes, those guys.
What got you into that?
That's a good question. I'll tell you, I have a pair of skis that my grandfather made me. My grandfather was from Norway, and he carved me out a pair of skis that says head on them. And they have leather bindings, and they're the ones that I learned how to ski on. I strapped them on the back and went into the backyard. And I don't know. I think it's, my parents wanted us while we lived here when we were younger to really be outdoors. And I just love the sport. And that's why my kids did it too. We just love being outside. I love the outdoors. As I quote, I feel the need for speed, which doesn't mean I'm always staying within the speed limit on the highway. I love the challenge. I really do. I think it's a great sport. It really teaches you also to look ahead. I remember when my kids were younger, a lot of their teachers asked me, "Do your kids ski race?" And I said, "Why would you ask that?" And they said, "Because they're always anticipating. They're always one of the first kids in the class to anticipate the next question." So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. Now, Patricia, running the company and over the years, I just wondering, how would you describe what your leadership style is?
That's a good question. Um, my leadership style is, I believe, truly in collaboration. Um, I believe it's really important to be empathetic, and also to really, I really foster a learning environment here at PBA that we really need to bring out the best in everyone. We need to celebrate our losses as well as our wins, but it's important to be able to establish a safe environment where people feel brave enough to take risks.
Mm,
And I think, and I also believe it's really important to hire people that are a lot smarter than me, that really set the stage for me to challenge myself to be a better leader and mentor to them.
mm. Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Patricia, for joining us today.
Not a problem, Mario. Let me know when you want to go to the Dorian or Le Petit Chef again. I'd be happy to host you.
All right, super. Thanks so much.
Take
That was
care.
You too. That was Patricia Phillips, who is CEO and chair of the PBA Group of companies in Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Thanks for joining us today.